Om lokaha samastaha sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. Mic check. Can someone put something in the chat for me? Switching over to the live chat. Okay, how's everyone doing today? Happy Friday. It is Friday, February 3rd, 2023. We are definitely into February. I can feel a change since January. Although many still have not yet recognized this change, we're going to go through many different charts today and take a look and see if we can find some subtle signs. Of course, I was joking with the title because, yeah, just kind of a funny thing that's been going on. It's been going around. It's sort of a contagion right now. I would like to mention before I dive in that all of the views expressed here are my own personal views. It's not financial advice. These are basically the moves that I'm taking. I'm sharing them with you. So I'm different. I'm distinct from a chart analyst exclusively in that I actually trade what I see and I don't just, so there's a lot for me at stake. So obviously I spend a lot of time really focusing on my craft. So the courses are still available on my website. They always will be, but the prices won't always be the same. The small cap superstars as well. It's a bargain right now if you want to learn about small caps that will eventually become mid and potentially large caps, such as Optimism and Aptos. There's also another course on the way that is going to be a distillation of courses 1 through 5. I think that starting out as a trader, if it were me at least, that was how I designed C3 courses numbers 1 through 5, was just covered everything that I possibly could without getting too bogged down in all the details, trying to keep it simple and focus on the most successful, profitable strategies. But the C3 Ultimate price action course is going to be, I'm going to do my best to really keep it, to really fine tune everything. So that's probably in the next couple of months. We'll see when I have time for that. Let's dive in and see what's going on with Bitcoin. Actually, you know what? I don't want to look at Bitcoin first. I want to look at the Dixie because this is what we've been watching for the last couple of weeks now. And I mentioned that once it broke, it's either going to break down and continue to the downside or break down and then push back inside the range, which it did. And I said yesterday in the Discord, I was mentioning that it could very well rip straight through, and it did that. Okay, and these 2 daily candles, this one in particular, today's candle is significant. This is actually a swing fail pattern. This is the definition of a swing fail pattern on the daily, mind you. And so here was our demand zone right here, came below it, ripped back above almost instantly. And actually, maybe we can see that. Yeah, on the 4 hour, it's not really showing any massive wicks, but still a swing fail nonetheless. And then came back above, and now we're potentially breaking this trend. This is the early signs of it. Maybe it comes back down and retests this upper range boundary here, but it literally has not looked back in the last couple of days. This is actually the biggest move that we've seen in the Dixie since this downturn, if you don't count these early waves here before the real drop down. I mean, just take this whole move down here. Do you see 2 white candles that were this large? This is a simple way of looking at it and seeing a potential momentum shift underway here, okay? When we had all of these candles for multiple weeks beforehand were very small and very indecisive. Now we have a very decisive move to the upside, okay? And also if you check the bonds, they're all up as well. Okay, so that's another sign. And also, if you check gold, gold is down almost 5% today. Gold usually tops out, not usually, but it often will top out when the dollar bottoms. Okay, so that's another pivot point that we want to pay attention to. It's happening right now. Okay, so we have some confluence. And then we take a look and we see what's happening with the S&P and that seems to be reversing at a critical level. This is a quarterly level for the S&P 500, and we now are reversing back inside, back below. Okay, will it continue to the downside, or is this just a fake out and then it just continues north from here all the way to 4,300? Not sure yet, but if what we're seeing in stocks today is any early indication, then could be a lot more downside, at least a correction at minimum, right? I would say at minimum, it seems like even in a healthy uptrend here, it would come back down to retest around 4,000, 4,050. Excuse me. Hi, Kevin and Harold. Yes, so I don't know if that's informative for all of you, but for me, it definitely is. And yes, I have short positions open as of today. Yesterday, I took some. I closed a little early because optimism was running its mouth still. And now it's actually pulling back. Funny little creature. But now I'm actually short Bitcoin, Ethereum, Phantom, Litecoin, and I can't remember what else, Avalanche. So if that's any indication, I don't know. We don't have confirmation yet. I can't say that. I mean, do we ever really have confirmation with the Dixie where it is, with the S&P where it is? We had earnings yesterday for the three of the major stock company or major tech companies. We had Apple, we had Amazon, and we had Google, and they were all misses as far as I remember. And Apple's the only one that seems to be in the green today. We have Google down 3%. We have Amazon down 8.5%. And what's really curious about this is if you look on the daily, I mention this because obviously the tech stocks are going to play into crypto pretty heavy here. Notice this, it gapped up and then immediately the next day it filled the gap, like immediately. Okay. I mean, it happens, but it's not very typical. And what's that a sign of? And I'm not just talking about Amazon here. It also happened with, I think it happened with Google as well. That's a sign of, well, it filled at least a good chunk of that gap. And that was a pretty significant gap. It's a sign of indecision. It's a sign of volatility. Let's see what the VIX is doing today. VIX is still down. It's still down around 18. So that's not giving us much to go off of. But it looks to me, just from my own analysis, to be the early signs of, at minimum, a correction. And as we know, corrections average anywhere between 10 to 30% realistically in a bull run. And so why not, whether or not you call this a bull or a bear market, a 10 or 20 or 30% correction should not be out of the cards. So for Bitcoin, what would that bring us to? What would be a realistic expectation for where Bitcoin should go? I mentioned on Wednesday that if we take a look at the Bollinger Bands, let's actually pull those up again and see where they're at today. We'll see on the weekly. If it reverts back to the mean here, that would be around 19K. Okay. It's definitely not unreasonable when you consider if you consider this whole area as a value area here, and this is basically the middle of that value area. It's around what, 18,700 to 19K there. Okay, that would be the reversion to the mean. Is that out of the cards? No. Is 30K out of the cards? No, it's never out of the cards. It's just that we're looking at probabilities. And what do we see here with the weekly candles? Big, strong green, not as strong green, but still strong. Not as strong green, still strong. Okay, what's happening this week? We're 2 days into the close. We have potentially our first red candle in 5 weeks. Okay, and so usually there's a deceleration before a correction. Okay, so I'm just pointing out the obvious here. And time will tell. But if I had to venture here, if I had to make a gander based on the way I'm trading, based on what I'm seeing in the chart. I sent a tweet out the other day. I was talking about 𝐬𝐭. I showed the 𝐬𝐭 schematic for distribution. Let's actually have a look at that. I was showing it for Ethereum, but there's a few of these that we can look at. Let's look at this one. No, that's accumulation. Never mind. Hold on. Okay, up thrust after distribution. Now I got to zoom out and try to find it on the chart. Where did it go? Okay, so this is it here. This gets a little bit, I'm still navigating how to have the images and just pull them up very easily without having to just go and find them in another file off of the site. But if we take a look and see, what does this look like when you zoom in? Can we zoom in here, please? Can we look at this on the, oh, I lost it. Okay, basically, okay, let's not even use that. Forget about that. Okay, so what do we see here? We see that we've been in this range since January 23rd. It's about a week now, and waiting for the next big push. And it's been pushing for sure. And it looks to be potentially a bullish market structure, right? But it's losing its momentum, obviously. And RSI is going to show that. You don't even need the indicator to see that. Is that technically a higher low? Yeah, I mean, let's actually look at this on the 4H because it's cleaner. These are technically higher lows, right? I mean, debatable there. Maybe that's a higher low, okay? Higher high, very slightly, about the same actually, not really a higher high. Okay, so that's one way to look at it, just saying, well, it's just obviously it's just going to continue going up because that's what it's been doing, and don't fight the trend. Okay, but then take all the other context, because the context is the emperor. Take all the other context that I just gave you into consideration, and the fact that we have a decreasing momentum. Okay, and this is what nobody else is paying attention to. This is what everybody on Twitter that's running their mouth right now and saying, you know, bears go home, whatever. I'm not a bull or a bear. I'm just telling you, this looks like it's slowing down just on this chart. And I see the dollar ripping back up again, and I see ES, SPY start to come back down again inside of a critical range at a key resistance level. And I see bonds ripping back up again. And I see major tech stocks selling off and kind of volatile all over the place. Okay, after huge monstrous runs, Tesla went from 108, where I was buying Tesla, it went all the way to about 200. Okay, we've seen Apple just completely go bonkers. Okay, and obviously nothing new. We had the NFP today, non-farm payrolls, which was basically a positive because there was more jobs, right? Which I would expect to be the case. But then there's also uncertainty around how the market's going to react to that, because that gives the Fed more freedom with restrictive economic policies in the future. So, I mean, this is all forward looking. It's debatable whether this is positive or negative. So it seems like the well may be running dry here as far as the bullish argument for more upside, especially when we look to the left and we see here that we see the resistance that is very clear for Bitcoin. You don't even need to draw any lines to see this. I mean, where is it running into? Well, this was a previous level here where it kind of peaked out, right? You don't need to be a chart analyst. You don't need to be a CMT or any of that to understand this. Okay, and also I mentioned, and I'm going to continue to remind people of these EMAs, and we've seen where we are with these EMAs. We did not quite come all the way up to this confluence here, which also it coincides with this resistance level, at least the top of it, and that is between the 200 and the 50, and that's around 24,800. Some were saying that's above 25K. Maybe it is on your chart. I'm looking at an index chart for Bitcoin, and that's taking into account prices across multiple different exchanges. So that gives me more of a balanced view. But we haven't gone up there. Do we have to? Do we have to wick up to it? No, definitely not. And as a matter of fact, I think it almost seems like the most obvious place where people would be shorting the crowded trade, so to speak. And so what that means is that it's probably not as likely to happen. It's probably going to dump before then. Now, I was saying earlier, much earlier, a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that Bitcoin could push to 24, 25K, and it did just that. Okay, it did exactly what I said it was going to do. It went to 24,200, okay, and probably above that on some other charts. So it fell into that range. We've technically already hit that mark. And if we take a look at the levels, this is giving us context. Everything is giving us context for what are the alts going to do. I will get into the alts. I will look at some of those charts, but this is what we really need to be paying the closest attention to, in my humble opinion. So yeah, so Shizzy, I'm not really sure what if you're agreeing or disagreeing with me. You know, what was I doing? It's so hard to stay focused on with something that's so technical and try to read the chat at the same time. That's why I realized like why people like Benjamin Cohen and others just don't do it all that often or at all, because I just completely lost my line of thinking. Maybe someone can remind me what I was about to do. There's so much to consider here. Let's bring up the levels, because that will give, I think that's where I was going with this. Let's bring up the levels, and here we have, and this is an alert that I have set here. Let me go ahead and delete this. I don't like that I can't hide alerts on TradingView. So I said that anywhere between 24,300 and 24,260 would be pretty critical zone for as far as looking to see a violent reaction where it completely just crushes down from there. But it does seem rather obvious, doesn't it, that it's just going to move so fast, and then so many people are waiting for it to hit this peak up here for the supreme short. Okay, and what's the likelihood that it's going to happen? Probably not at this point. I mean, if it was going to happen, I would have thought that it would have already happened, and given all of the bullish momentum. And here it sort of feels like we're at the end of the week now. There's been a lot of opportunity with all the earnings, with everything. There's been a lot of opportunities for Bitcoin and Ethereum to continue to push higher here. Now, I'm not saying that it can't eventually come up to 25K and beyond. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm also not saying that it's going to just completely crush all the way down back to the bottom of the range. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's a much higher probability that we correct here at minimum to the mean, okay? Or thereabouts, at minimum to 20K. Okay, so, and that would be around this level here, 2,400. And that's not unreasonable for me to say that, especially if you take this and you measure this move down, it's about 16%. Okay, it seems like a lot when you just look at this, but again, just look at measure any correction in a bull market. We've been going at this for several weeks now. Okay, usually we had a few weeks of bullish momentum and then a pullback. Okay, and it's showing signs that it wants to pull back. Okay, it's slowing down in its momentum. So I don't know. I mean, I know one thing for sure. There's a lot of people. I think I just need to take a break from Twitter and not post on there for a while or ever again, or just keep it locked, because there's just constantly people coming in that just know everything there is to know about how to read a chart and how to trade, with very little or no experience. And a lot of them are just hodlers or recent investors in the last year or two, and they don't really understand the difference between somebody that's like intraday trading and that has a longer a longer position, a swing position versus a long-term investor. Like everybody has their own view on this. And I'm saying that from a long-term investment perspective, like Bitcoin could very well do something like this, where it comes down, corrects here, and then comes back up again, and then breaks above here. This would be very bullish, okay, for Bitcoin. And I'm going to get away from, I'm going to do my best to consciously not even use the terms bull and bear market anymore, because I think it's too confusing for too many people. And I also think that we're going to be in no man's land for a while. And that no man's land could be anywhere between 15 or below, 14K, whatever, and 50K for Bitcoin. And so call that bull, call that bear. I'm just calling the next direction, because for me, when I take a big trade at a range extreme, this is a big part of my personal strategy. So if I just catch this move here from here to here, you have no idea how much money I will make on this, because I'm sizing up on the conviction based on what I just showed you. Okay. So I'll make more money on this than most people will make just throwing money at Bitcoin on the way up over somewhere over here. Okay. And they might be waiting, and it might completely round trip on them. And then I'll also maybe take the long if it shows signs that it wants to reverse here. So this is the benefit of being a trader. Of course, it's easier said than done. Most people don't have the skill to do it, and then they criticize people that do. And that's just, I guess that's just part of this whole package. And I'm learning it as I go and deciding whether I honestly want to continue to share. And I know that it's just kind of like a few bad eggs here and there, but they've definitely grown in number in the last couple of weeks. But you know, it's like I can profit both ways. I really don't care what the price does. I don't care if Bitcoin goes to 25K tomorrow, I'll cut my losses and go long, but it won't. I don't think it will. I highly doubt it will. I think what we're looking at going into the weekend is going to be largely, it's going to be range bound, and it's going to start to show signs of weakness here. And then headed into next week, probably on Sunday, Monday, it'll break down from this range here with some conviction. And that might take some time for the breakdown. So it might chop around in here for the better part of the weekend, and then finally start to break down and really actually correct more than just 5%. Okay, that's my 2 cents on it. So that's why I'm short up here, and that's, you know, I'm okay holding on to that, and I'm also okay if Bitcoin wants to try to perk up here for a minute, and I'll short it back down over here as well. I'll add to my position. I'm scaling in. So I'm not full on in the position, but it's a significant enough position. That's my personal strategy. Works for me. If, you know, may not work for you. Not financial advice. Not really attached either way. You have to become cold-blooded if you want to be successful as a trader. Not like a cold-blooded killer, but just indifferent to, you know, and that's hard sometimes. Sometimes I admittedly get emotionally wrapped up in what other people are saying about things that I'm just genuinely trying to point out. You know, like people just constantly will challenge you. And I guess that's the nature, because we are in an ultra competitive environment and there's money at stake, and you're either right or you're wrong. And if you're wrong, then you lose money. People don't want to lose money, so they're willing to defend their positions when it's completely, you know, when there's a lot of other signs to the contrary. So I think the best course of action here is just not to say anything. Sometimes I just get silent for a while, but it's hard when I have these lives. So I've been considering, and I'm curious your feedback. If you think I should do this maybe less often, maybe once a week, and just give a broader view of the markets. I know that some of you are benefiting from some of the nuances that I'm sharing in these sessions, but a lot of people just kind of like tune in, tune out. So with Ethereum, this chart, you could say this looks bullish too. You could say that this is a bullish market structure. You know, again, same rules apply. Higher lows. There's your higher low right there, right? Higher high. Not quite. A little bit higher high. Okay. So we got a channel there. It's moving up, right? But again, context is the emperor, price is the king. Volume doesn't mean anything to me. People, argue with me about volume. Volume is showing the amount of contracts that are bought and sold. It's mixing them together, okay? So in some cases, I will look at volume, but a lot of the times, I don't need the volume to give me confirmation. I can actually see it in the candles themselves, okay? Sometimes it's helpful, but I find for the most part, for me personally, it's a distraction. It's one more thing that I have to focus on, and I'm already focusing on enough. So Ethereum looks bullish from this chart. If we were in a bull market, if it was 2020 and things were really shooting up, I would say it's probably going to continue. It's not really breaking down here. It's tried, but it failed here. Okay, but then it tried to push up again here and failed again. So now we're at a point of indecision. And so what's next? Well, what happened to the S&P 500 in the last hour? Didn't really do much. It sold off and just sort of held, okay? And it's holding below the range. What has the Dixie done? Has the Dixie shown any sign here that it wants to pull back? Initially, it looked like it did. A couple of hours ago, we had this big wick, but then guess what? Immediately rushed back up again. Euro's down, cable's down, dollar's up, okay? Maybe it comes back and retests here, but it's looking like reversal is imminent in all markets. That's what it looks like. That's my call, and I'm willing to go on here live and to make the call and to be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong if I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, or I wouldn't be making the call. So it's, I told you guys when I thought in January, we had that rally. I said, first video January, there's going to be a fierce rally in January. That was basically the title of the video. Okay. Breakout imminent. I think that was the thumbnail, and it's like, that was at 16K and talking about soaring past 18K. Alts have room to run here. Look at the titles and the thumbnails, like I don't know. It's so strange to me how I can put everything, I can show all the tweets on Twitter, I can show all the thumbnails and everything, and still there's people that are like, they'll just question everything that I say and call me a fool or an idiot because of something I said about Wonderland a year ago. I don't, I have another channel actually, and the only comments that I ever get on that channel are positive. And I think part of it is because there's not as many aggressive males that are watching the channel, that the audience is actually a mix. It's a spiritual channel. And so I've been really struggling with this channel recently. And I don't know whether I want to continue is the thing. Like, I'm perfectly okay making money and being private. And I guess the only reason that I really enjoy doing this is because there are people that seem to be benefiting and seem to be profiting, and it seems to be helping. But when I start to feel like, I don't know, it's like I want to crawl in my hole when people criticize me. There's a lot of other YouTubers and they have much thicker skin than me, and of course they've been doing it longer than me, and they just will curse people out and block them and like all day, and they're just crude as hell. And that's like not really something that I'm wanting to cultivate, but I'm just navigating this. I guess I'm processing on this live stream, and I know you all just want to know where the price is going to go. And that's something else that kind of after a while gets a little bit tiring. I think the price is going down. I'm short Ethereum. I'm massively short Ethereum up here. I think it's going to get crushed down. I think it's going to chop around in here and then go down. And I'm looking at targets down 15. We're looking at 14.25. Maybe it comes all the way down to 13.50. Would it surprise you? Well, good, because you're probably going to be one of the people that, you lose money. That's how it goes. It's a 19% correction. I don't know. Is it out of the ordinary? Where did Ethereum start out on this run? Okay, how far up have we gone here? 54, 50. 59%. Okay, 20% correction. I don't know. This is like basic technical analysis. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, where we're at in this range. Let's take a look at Phantom and see where is Phantom at. Okay, in this larger range, we're way up at the extreme of the range. Now, would it be unreasonable for Phantom to come to the mid of between these two green lines here? Would it be unreasonable after this? For what reason? Is there any fundamental reason why Phantom did this? Aside from just, I don't know, people are saying the Saudis did it. I don't know why the Saudis would do any of this, but I mean, that's a 30 to 40% correction easily. I don't know. I mean, I think it's definitely possible if stocks really fall here and the Dixie really does come back. And I think the Dixie could come all the way back up to 105, 106, 107 and in the coming weeks. And so that's where I keep saying this comes up here. I said, look, when it breaks here, this is where we're looking to get in. This is where I'm looking to get in. And it broke, okay? It gets back up here, and now we're looking to maybe long, okay? It starts to show a little bit of chop like we saw up here, and then we see a pattern develop, and then it breaks back down again. Okay, now I'm saying, okay, now this is actually really bullish because it's actually putting in a lower high. Okay, lower low, lower high for the Dixie. Okay, right now we just have that initial wave, the initial impulse down. Okay, so but now we're getting that reaction here, and you could say, well, it happened here too, but it didn't happen as quickly. Okay, it didn't happen in 2 days. If we look at this here, I mean, this was kind of a push up, right? And it looked like it wanted to really break back up again, but there was some resistance here. It could do anything. It could pull back again and come all the way back down in the range. And then I'd say, okay, game on for these markets. But this is probably the most important chart that you can be watching right now. It's just, in my humble opinion, this chart is the most important. And this is also going to dictate what the alts do. Ethereum is going to really, in large part, dictate what the alts do, whether they continue to just have these outrageous runs. Optimism, I think, I don't know. It's up 8% now, but it was up another like 10 or 15% today for no apparent reason. Optimism is one that I was, looking shorting because what a tremendous opportunity. If it does get back inside this range here, look, this is a range, right? It's in price discovery. It's above this range right now. What happens if it gets back inside here though? Then would it be unreasonable for it to come back down with these huge moves that we're seeing in a day? Would it be unreasonable for it to come back down to the mid? This is the 0.75 level of this range. This is the mid. That's $1.05. Okay. I could do it. I mean, it could come all the way back down, or maybe it finds support somewhere over here. I mean, that's how big of a move is that though? Of course, everyone wants to catch this move. Sometimes I do that, and that's where I get into trouble, right? Because we don't have any confirmation. But if you waited, even if there was, these are juicy plays here if you can get in at the right time. That's the key, right? This one here, let's just say that it does get back inside this range here beneath 245 and then starts to continue to show weakness here. It'll probably bounce here initially, but then if it gets back inside, there's your short trigger, and this could be a scalp that turns into a swing position because this could just keep dropping all the way down to this line here, okay? And that, even if you were to enter this trade somewhere up here, then that would be a 54% move for optimism. I wouldn't put it past it after what we just saw. Even if you caught half that, even if you went to the 0.75, the upper quadrant, right? The upper quarter of this larger range, that's still a 36% move for optimism. Now, people would say, no way. There's no way that it would do that. Well, people would probably have said there's no way that it would rip up this high either a couple of months ago. And lo and behold, it did. So, just giving that perspective, just that reality check. And, you know, if you're a trader, then you don't really care because you're not, it's not like you're helpless. It's just that the problem is that people that are threatened, they don't know how to, they don't really know how to trade, how to short. They just know how to buy. You can, I didn't know I could do that. Extend. Let me try that. I'm going to try to hide. I want to set an alert line and see if I can hide it. It's also been giving me this alert may trigger differently from what you expect. Oh, it's based on, oh, it's because I'm in the log. Okay. So let me add an alert and let's see. So choose extend. You're saying left, right click, choose extend. Nice. Okay. That's good to know. Thank you. I was trying to figure that out for many years. So I like that. Yeah. Okay. So that's Aptos. That's why I like this. I'm not in it or not. How did I get to Aptos? Was I looking at Optimism or Aptos here? I was looking at Optimism, right? Yeah. So that's Optimism. I do like that better than Aptos as a short. But Aptos, I was sizing up potential short here. Notice also, this is something else that we want to be paying close attention to with all of these. These gray lines here that I have are the monthly open. Okay. So usually, like after a big move, either up or down, you want to pay attention that next month, what happens if it starts above and then gets below? That's usually bearish, and vice versa. So in this case, we started above, but we've been just barely above. Okay. And now this is holding currently as support for Bitcoin, kind of. I mean, it hasn't really come down to test it yet. But if we get below this 23,200 and hold below, and it continues to chop down here, then I would say there's, again, this is giving us some confluence that there's more downside. In the case of Ethereum, we're looking at 1626. So, and notice it has come down and tried to penetrate and hasn't yet broken through that. But what happens when it does here? That could be could be a sharp move down for Ethereum all the way down to 1500. Okay. So with Aptos, I'm not wanting to take huge moves on the alts, although I do have actually some risk here on the table with Phantom and Litecoin. But with Aptos, it's been hovering around this range boundary here. And of course, there's a little bit of a cliff here of support. I mean, a aggressive entry would be, I mean, right now, right, with a stop somewhere up above this drama here. But that's actually, I didn't like this setup because it's kind of, it's already looking at a 10% stop. I try and keep my stops down below 5% for the most part because I get higher returns on it. It just depends. But if this does come back down to this level here, this 1558, and then because we can see that there's sort of some support there, right? So a conservative entry for Aptos would be somewhere below here, okay, for a short. And that's after everything, you start to see everything else breaking down. You know, the long scenario would be the opposite here. I think Aptos looks pretty exhausted. It hasn't really pushed up today. It was down when a lot of the others were up. So I think Aptos is pretty much seen its, I think I would call this the top here for Aptos, the local top. Bull market's over. So that's just, again, I could be wrong, but that's what I feel. Phantom is not giving any signs that it wants to break down. I'm probably insane to have a short on this already, but I do. So I'm short from like up here, almost 0.635-ish. And I mean, if I'm right, then I'm way right because I'm going to ride this thing down. this is the monthly open for Phantom. So it could be that it comes down 0.54, and then, but I mean, more aggressive entries would be down below, break below here, and then there you go. But this would be the monthly open here. So I'd be watching that level for Phantom and seeing if it can hold support. Because some of these, I mean, all of them really, they could come down to the monthly over the next week, and then they could just bounce right off again and just continue north. But let's look at those candles on the monthly. Let's look at that monthly candle for Bitcoin. That's a big green candle. Will it be followed up by another big green candle? It's possible. If this is in fact the end of the bear market, right? But again, after it's the largest green monthly candle we've seen since October of 2021. So that's positive, and it was pretty one-sided, right? Not really a strong rejection wick there, but this could also be if we look on the weekly chart and we see, well, we already kind of did that. So this looks almost like, we'll see how this week finishes here, but it looks almost like a evening star pattern that wants to develop here for Bitcoin and Ethereum on the weekly. So we looked at Optimism and Aptos and Phantom. Let's check out Litecoin and see. Litecoin ran up higher than I expected it to. Well, not quite. I mean, it actually, I said that it could come all the way up to, yeah, I said it could come all the way up to 107. So, and it did actually come to the mid of this, between these two take profit levels. This was the first, 93.50 and then 107. It did come to the mid. So it still has room. If it wants to push, then it could push all the way up to 107. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. Excuse me. So it could come all the way up here, but I don't think that. Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate that. I don't think that it will. I think that okay, unpopular opinion for bulls. I think that we've seen the local top for everything. That's what I think. Okay, stream's over. We're good. We're done. Short everything down. That's what I think. But again, willing to be wrong. But Litecoin, it's hard to read, right? So this, I do have a short here, right around this level where it's at right here. It's not giving any, this is an aggressive trade, okay? This is based off of what I'm seeing on other charts. But if it does break below this level, then you could short it down. Minimum target would be somewhere around 93, okay? And then we're looking at 90.24, and then much lower from there. Litecoin is probably going to correct, I would say, somewhere down between 82 and 86. And we'll see what happens once Bitcoin hits that mean again, or gets close to 20K. Again, many people don't believe it's going to happen, so therefore it's most likely going to happen. When it starts to hit 21K, you'll start hearing a lot more calls for 20K again. And then, eventually it hits 20K, and then people start saying, well, now it's going all the way back down to 15K. And then the more people you start to hear, this is where it's good to listen to the sentiment, because it gives you an indication of like, what's the crowd psychology. And so smart money is going to do the opposite. So, okay, so we have some targets for Litecoin. I'm not even going to bother with the upside. If it does come back down, okay, let's just say that it comes back down to here, and then we see a sharp reaction, then that could be a long. But then you also have to pay attention. You have to contend with this here, right? So if it does break above this and this, then that could be a long, and targets would be all the way up here. So if we just all of a sudden get another vicious rally, that would be the course. And that's actually what Litecoin has done pretty much, yeah, several times during this rally. It's good for me to cover the long scenarios even when I'm short on something, because it just gives perspective and it keeps me humble. It keeps me, they say that when you believe that you're 100% convinced that it's going to happen, that you're probably wrong. And so I try never to be 100% convinced that something's going to happen. Maybe this cough drop will help to make my throat a little bit better. I've been struggling with this for like 2 months now, and my health is fine. I've got it checked, you know, but I've had different things come and go, and I think just my immunity was weakened by some injuries. But I'm getting stronger again. It's just been a challenge to do the streams. I feel a lot better today. I feel really good today, aside from the throat stuff. But Atom is, yeah, Atom looks kind of starting to look a little toppy as well. And a lot of, you know, conservative entries for Atom would be somewhere below. I mean, it could just rush down here, maybe even do this and then get back above here and give another bounce. And there, depending on what the rest of the market is doing there, I'd probably be looking to short it once it did that. But if it comes up higher, I honestly don't know how much higher this can go, right? I mean, it's already just kind of peaked out up here. This looks kind of like, this looks like another juicy short. All of these, it's like you get in that place, that zone where all of a sudden everything just looks like, I just want to short it. And you've got to pick and choose, because you can't have, you know, 100 positions open. You've got to focus. And I try to focus on maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 at most. Okay, so I'm actually showing you my short right now. I was meaning to hide this one. This is Avax, and I just want to get rid of it so that I can see. If you're in C3, then you'll see these. I'm not hiding anything in C3. And we'll see how I navigate this when things, you know, when the price goes back up again in the coming months for a lot of crypto, and people start watching this more. But so I'm short on Avax, and I like this level to short here. I like this because you have this range here, and then these are just deviations, and then this kind of tried to push back up. Very weak attempt here, and then rejection at this swing level here, which is also a key level in the range, a larger range. And then you see now it's just kind of like hovering. So I think this is ultimately going to break down. It gives me some targets to the downside. But that's just, you know, AVAX has also been really, really strong. So fading this, I don't know if it's a good idea, if it's the best idea. But sometimes, you know, the ones that are the most overextended, they're going to correct the hardest, the fastest. But look at these wicks. I mean, of course, we had that here as well. So, but it's not really, yeah, I mean, it looks toppy, you know, it looks like, and that's a pretty obvious area. That's the mid of this range, okay? It's a pretty obvious area where it's going to revolt there. So that's just my take. Now, Ethereum, I did say if it broke back above this, then Ethereum's probably going to show some strength relative to Bitcoin. If it breaks below, then it's going to be weaker. Because of this, this is a key mid-level here on the ETH-BTC chart. But I don't know. I mean, Ethereum still could really come to crash hard. It could correct further. It most likely will. But today, Ethereum's up and Bitcoin's down. So Ethereum's holding somewhat steady. They're holding their ground. That's for sure. I'll give them that. When we've seen a lot of red in stocks today. So are there any questions before I hop off here? I think I covered, I mean, I covered not all the alts, but, you know, the ones that I care about at least. uh, Solana has just been kind of chop suey for several weeks now, which is really strange. If you look at this on the daily, it's just like, what are you going to do? It's either going to break down really strong or continue north. I mean, this looks pretty obvious. Like, I mean, this is pretty obviously resistance. Hasn't even really come up to test it yet. Maybe it does and swing fails and then gets back inside. But right now it's kind of in the middle of all of this. And so if it was, I'm not really interested in this, but if I were just trying to identify a range to work with, I mean, you could use this, but it's just kind of messy. Probably just knock off some of these wicks here and just look at that. Just focus on this. There's the monthly open, so it's right at the monthly open. But so if it breaks down below here, and then we're looking at maybe, you know, it's below the monthly here, and then it gets below here, and then it starts to show weakness, and there would be your short. Most likely it'll just do like a violent move like that, and maybe it'll just violently bounce back. And then that retest would be where I'd be looking to get in if it did that. Or it could just keep going. I mean, there's also a good chance. That's one of the reasons why I'm already in these shorts, because I know that there may not be any action over the weekend. It may just sort of hover kind of above and below break even for me for a lot of these. But if there is, then I expect that quick move to be down, not up. And my stops, I feel like comfortable enough with where they are to not get stopped out in that. So it is riskier to hold positions longer, especially through the weekend. I don't always feel very comfortable about it, but this time is a little different for me. So yeah, Ethereum is now trying to push up a little bit here. And they're just, I mean, they're not moving much at all. So could be a very boring weekend. Just gauging by the amount of people that have actually tuned into the stream, it's probably going to be a boring weekend. No one really cares unless the price is moving. But Monday morning could be like right around, who knows? Like my intuition, my gut is telling me that Monday early morning is probably, and that's of course my time early morning, but maybe around stocks open or when stocks really start to move on Monday, that'll probably be when we start to see some big moves in crypto. But I could be wrong. It could take the whole week to really, I mean, this could just continue like this. But the longer this continues, I don't think that's a bullish sign. I think that's more of a short-term pullback scenario. So I've pretty much beat that concept to death in this live, and I'm tired of hearing about it myself. And I'm actually ready to take the weekend and just chill and watch my son play baseball and just kind of like nominal or minimal focus on the charts. And I appreciate you all, those of you that have tuned in and that have been watching, that you've been kind of the warriors in this. I'm just kind of going through my process right now and trying to figure out like if I want to keep doing this, because I feel like I know that I'm adding value, and I know that I do have a unique voice, and that you know, it's just that yeah, it's just the internal struggles that happen when you're public with sharing these things. And it's just something you have to go through, and I've never been through it till this last year, these last couple years now. And so yeah, just gotta kind of, maybe it means I just make less of these and just see. I think scarcity definitely has an impact on people appreciating things, and maybe I just need to appreciate myself more. But yeah, it's just kind of one of those days. I hope that this was helpful for you and that you are able to use it in a way that profits you. That's really what this is all about. So thank you all for watching. I'm gonna just comment here. I know that some of you will be watching this post-mortem after the stream is over. Thanks, guys. Yeah, you know, it does help me. For the comments help me. So if you want me to keep doing this, comment about it. Like the videos, like show me some enthusiasm, because I can't, I'm not going to always bring the enthusiasm after a year of just getting hurled stuff at from just every direction in this market. Like it's just really starting to wear on me, and I'm like actually acknowledging it here. Like it's really wearing on me. Like even, yeah, it's like I don't, it takes, yeah, I need to really like level up with this, like to grow a really thick skin here. So have a beautiful rest of your day.